The room was tense from the very beginning. Cameras lined the walls, microphones caught every sound, and a nation sat on edge, waiting to see sparks fly. And then it happened. Bill Barr, with his towering presence and booming voice, snapped, "That's enough!" It wasn't just loud, it was final, like a gavel slamming down to end an argument. For a second, silence hung heavy. People watching expected Jasmine Crockett to back down, to pause, maybe even shrink under the weight of one of the most intimidating men in American politics. But instead, what unfolded left the entire room stunned, and by the time her words landed, America realized they were witnessing something far bigger than a simple exchange. This wasn't just a clash between two people, it was a battle between old power and new courage. Bill Barr carried decades of authority, polished with influence and reinforced by years of serving the highest offices in the land. He was used to dominating a room, used to having the last word, but Jasmine Crockett represented something different, something raw, unapologetic, and unshakable. She wasn't polished by Washington, she was sharpened by struggle. And that's exactly why this moment mattered. When Barr tried to silence her, Crockett didn't flinch. She leaned in, and with a calm that cut through his thunder, she delivered a reply that wasn't just powerful. It was unforgettable. It was the kind of moment where time seems to slow down, and you know history is being written right there in front of your eyes. But let's step back. Why was this confrontation so explosive? To understand, you need to know who Jasmine Crockett is. Before she ever set foot in Congress, she was a fighter in courtrooms across Texas, standing up for clients who didn't have the wealth or privilege to buy their way into justice. She saw firsthand how the system often worked against ordinary people, and she made a promise to herself to never let intimidation silence truth. That promise was written all over her face the day Bill Barr raised his voice. Think about the dynamic for a moment. Here was Bill Barr, the former Attorney General, a man who had stood shoulder to shoulder with presidents, who had held in his hands decisions that shaped the nation. And across from him was Jasmine Crockett, a freshman congresswoman, still new in the eyes of Washington insiders. On paper, this shouldn't have even been a contest. Yet what America saw that day flipped the script. Barr had the volume, but Crockett had the substance. He had the years, but she had the conviction. And conviction, when spoken with fire, drowns out even the loudest voice. The way she answered him wasn't rehearsed. It couldn't have been. It was instinctual, born from years of standing toe-to-toe with people who thought power gave them the right to decide who gets to speak and who doesn't. And in that instant, her reply wasn't just for herself. It was for every woman who's ever been told to sit down. For every person who's ever been told their time was up, when truth was only just starting to be spoken. The cameras captured Barr's frustration, the kind that comes when authority meets resistance it wasn't expecting. And they captured Crockett's composure, unshaken, unwavering. It was a contrast so stark it played out like a movie scene. The veteran who thought he controlled the narrative, and the newcomer who seized it with nothing but her voice. And what did America do? They didn't just watch, they felt it. Social media exploded. Clips of the exchange spread across timelines, fueling debates, inspiring praise, igniting criticism. But whether you agreed with her or not, one thing was undeniable. Jasmine Crockett had refused to be silenced, and in doing so, she'd cemented her place in the national conversation. It's easy to forget, in moments like these, that history isn't always written in grand speeches or sweeping policies. Sometimes it's written in seconds, seconds where someone dares to answer back when the world expects silence. Seconds where someone refuses to yield, no matter how loud the opposition shouts. That was Jasmine Crockett's moment. And Bill Barr, perhaps without realizing it, had set the stage for it by yelling those three words, "That's enough!" But America wasn't done listening, not even close. Because the reply Crockett gave was only the beginning. What came next dug deeper into the truth, exposed the cracks in the facade of power, and revealed why this exchange shook Washington in ways no one saw coming. The silence that followed Bill Barr's outburst was deafening. Viewers at home leaned closer to their screens, sensing that something important was about to unfold. Members in the room exchanged nervous glances. Even the cameras seemed to hang in the stillness, waiting to capture whatever came next. And then Jasmine Crockett spoke.
Outside the room, the world reacted. Networks replayed the moment again and again. Commentators tried to frame it, analyze it, spin it. But what mattered most wasn't what they said. It was what people felt. Across living rooms, phones, and offices, ordinary Americans saw a reflection of themselves in Crockett's defiance. They saw the possibility of standing tall against voices meant to silence them. And that's what made this so much more than a political clash. It became a cultural one. A reminder that respect isn't handed down by titles, but earned by integrity. A reminder that shouting, "That's enough," doesn't end the truth. It only makes it louder. As the hearing drew to a close, Crockett didn't gloat. She didn't smirk or celebrate. She simply sat back, calm and steady, knowing she had spoken her truth. That restraint, that composure, said even more than her words. Because true power doesn't need to prove itself. It simply stands unshaken. The final camera shot lingered on her face, and you could feel the weight of what had just happened. A young congresswoman had gone toe-to-toe with one of the most powerful figures in recent political history, and she hadn't just survived. She had won, not by outshouting him, but by outlasting him. Not by raising her voice, but by refusing to lower it. And that is why this moment left America speechless. Because in a world where so many believe power belongs to the loudest voice, Jasmine Crockett reminded us all of a deeper truth. Sometimes the quietest strength is the one that changes everything. She walked out of that room not just as a participant in a hearing, but as a symbol of courage, of resilience, of the idea that no matter who tries to silence you, your voice matters. And long after the cameras turned off and the headlines faded, that message remained. Because in the end, it wasn't Bill Barr's yell that defined the day. It was Jasmine Crockett's calm reply. And history will remember it not as the moment she was told, "That's enough," but as the moment she proved there is never enough strength in silence to stop the truth.